welcome you into CBS Sports HQ. I'm Kiana Martin alongside my guy Chris Williamson, and I'm so sorry, Chris, but it's ladies' night. On a night where the NBA season had a day off, all eyes were on this historic draft class who have changed the landscape of women's hoops and officially entering the pro ranks.
And much like the transition from college to pros, one thing about that, you're going to be humbled. But on this night, they had every reason to flex and brag because they were living their dreams. And leading this class, which has the potential to change the course of the W's history, Caitlin "Captivating" Clark. The Indiana Fever selected her #1 overall. It was the worst kept secret in this draft. Two-time Naismith Player of the Year, all-time leading scorer in men or women's Division I history. Caitlin now joins former #1 overall pick Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina last year. And then how about at #2, Stanford's Cameron Brink, the 2024 Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, going to the Sparks as they look to enter a rebuilding era. And this is somebody who's a great shot blocker, can protect the rim, and also has the ability to step outside. And look at Camila Cardoso, going #3 overall, the two-time national champ. Finished her season, her career, I should say, with a career-high 17 boards. And she now is going to the Midwest. Incredible for South Carolina's star center. And joining her, Angel Reese. And those two have had battles going all the way back to their high school careers. Now, two of the best rebounders in the nation will be on the same team. So I don't think anybody is going to get a whole lot of rebounds against them in Chicago. And here's a look at the rest of the first round. So, Rickea Jackson is going to be linking up with Cameron Brink. That should be a fun, exciting duo. J.C. Sheldon from Ohio State going to Dallas. Aaliyah Edwards, how about her? Going to the Mystics down in D.C. Alyssa Pilley from Utah going to the Lynx. And how about Nardiu Poch, from Australia going to the Dream. Then Marquisha Davis, Ole Miss going to the Liberty. Liberty definitely needed that. All right, time now to welcome in CBS Sports basketball analyst Erica Ayala, who's been hard at work all night long covering this draft from interviews, analysis. And Erica, first up, Caitlin Clark going #1 to the Fever. What type of impact is she going to have on them? And what was the environment like when she got drafted #1?
Well, Caitlin Clark said that, she was a little bit anxious before hearing her name. Of course, at this point, when we get to the draft, a lot of the players have already had conversations with the teams that are looking to draft them, figuring out where they might fit in and what some of the ask might be. But Caitlin was a little bit nervous, but she handled that with the poise and grace that we're used to. I also liked hearing her talk about how she thought her game might translate, not just for Indiana, but in the WNBA. And she expects to show off her facilitating role, or for her facilitator role, and be able to really pass, of course, to who we know is in the post in Aaliyah Boston. So I'm very excited to see that part of her game. And then over time, perhaps, as a WNBA pro, we will see that range that became famous in the NCAA. But for right now, Caitlin's just excited. Everyone pretty excited. And we're going to see her facilitate, really get the ball down to the post to Boston and the rest of her Indiana Fever teammates.
Yeah, and I think she's going to have a much easier time facilitating, where she doesn't have to carry the load as much as she did in Iowa. Now she's playing with pros, all-time players that are going to make her job that much easier. And let's go now to the Sparks, who we talked about it earlier. They're not going to be competing for a WNBA championship, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be a fun team to watch. They get Cameron Brink from Stanford, Rickea Jackson from Tennessee, who I feel like not a lot of people are talking about enough as they should. What do you make of the Sparks' decisions here as they enter a new era in LA?
I really like the quality of player, the basketball IQ, and also the person and the personality attached to their picks here, as you mentioned, in Cameron Brink and Rickea Jackson. You talked about maybe Jackson as far as one of the first rounders being a little bit underrated or not talked about as much. This is a very loaded draft class here in the WNBA, so I'm very excited to see how Rickea is going to take her game to the next level. I do think she has a very well-rounded game and that she'll slot in well. But also, I think the game in the WNBA really comes down to what you can do in the post. And I like that Cameron Brink, of course, will bring that presence, rebounds in particular, but is also a player that can help stretch the floor a little bit at times. I got to speak to a lot of the players as they came through the circuit, but Rickea Jackson was coming in as the Los Angeles Sparks actually were FaceTiming her. So I got to see Kurt Miller, in the corner of her screen and just having a really great conversation about wanting her to enjoy this night, to enjoy the time, and then to get ready to get excited about the work that they can do together. So it was really awesome to get that little perspective as we were getting ready to sit down for our one-on-one interview.
Oh, I love that so much. And yeah, it's a quick transition. I mean, the season starts in May, and they're going to hit the ground running. Speaking of hitting the ground running, Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. We know what happened in the SEC tournament championship game, right? Hair being pulled, bloody lips and all that. Great battles as well in some other games going back to high school. What do you think about that duo in Chicago as they also have a new chapter for this team?
These are two really great gets for any WNBA team. But as you mentioned, we know that Chicago didn't have the season that they wanted last year. They lost a lot of pieces in free agency and in the offseason. And so there is a little bit of a rebuild. But we know, again, we talked about this, as you mentioned, we talked earlier, talked about Teresa Weatherspoon. Also just this organization, Angel Reese actually talked a lot about the development and knowing that she's going to a place where they have a very keen focus on player development, and it is somewhere where she can grow. But she is very excited to play alongside Cardoso. She talked about coming in to her NCAA career as one of the highest wings coming into her college career. And so she's excited to not have to sacrifice and play what she considered perhaps out of position and to go back to more of a natural position because Cardoso can take care of the five.
Oh, yeah. We saw that time and again in this tournament and throughout the course of her career. Now, when we look at Rookie of the Year odds, Caitlin Clark is at -950. Do you think anybody else has a better shot to win it? Because I know the sexy pick is Caitlin, but maybe potentially there could be another player who's on a team where they carry the load more and they actually ended up winning it.
That's a really great question, and honestly, we won't know until we get through training camp, because although we know what these players have done at the NCAA level, we talked about it just now. Angel Reese is going to be likely playing a different position, or expecting to, at least at this level. We heard, again, that Caitlin Clark expecting to facilitate more, so maybe she's not taking as many shots. That being said, I think any of the players that we talked about have a high chance, a high likelihood that not only can they make an impact on the teams that they've gone to this year, but they have to, of course, get through training camp, get through their rookie season, and if their teams can also gel in a way where they're not just filling holes, but they're establishing their pro game, that for me is going to be the player with the best odds for Rookie of the Year.
Erica Ayala, breaking it down, fantastic as always. We appreciate you for us. All right. If you want to continue, well, you should continue watching the WNBA because we've got 20 games throughout the 2024 season right here on CBS Sports, also streaming on Paramount Plus, where we are entering a new era of WNBA basketball where a lot more people are starting to appreciate the talented ladies that they are day in and day out. Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu, A'ja Wilson, a two-time MVP, Angel Reese, all of them going to be showing out on the big stage.